Okay, here we are opening up the Romantics, and I'm going to start by giving you a timeline, so you should jot this down. You can see that you have Beowulf at the top, where we started our focus, circa 1000, coming down to Canterbury Tales, which we skipped, into the Renaissance with William Shakespeare with Macbeth, and Milton with Paradise Lost. We skipped the Enlightenment. If you ever want to pick up Voltaire's Candide, that's a really funny and excellent work. You might have touched on some Benjamin Franklin with your American Lit Studies, possibly. Down here to 1800, opening up with William Wordsworth in 1798 with the lyrical ballads. I would probably even put William Blake right here above him um, to open up the Romantics. Going down to Mary Shelley, Lord Byron, you have Frankenstein in this era. You have all these excellent American transcendentalists and romantics with Emerson, Fuller, Thoreau, Hawthorne, Melville, all those that you were introduced to last year in American Lit. And over here to the Brontes, Emily, Charlotte, Robert Browning's poetry. We combine these a bit, romantic and Victorians a bit, because they bleed into one another. Alright, what is Romanticism exactly? To understand it, you really need to see what comes before, and that is the Enlightenment. You have the logic, the age of logic. Society is good. Getting rid of those violent impulses, and a good, strong society makes good, strong people. All of a sudden you have in the early 19th century, you have the Industrial Revolution, which changes everything, and you introduce to Romanticism, which in civilization corrupts. People need to be amongst nature and amongst themselves to really know themselves. It is subjective, emotional human experience. You have all these emotions and feelings coming into play here. Human knowledge is puny. It's a small, tiny thing compared to this giant force, this world that we live in, with the beauty of nature, with all the past history we have. Everything is huge and beautiful around us, and we are tiny, insignificant type of things. The individual individual rights is dangerous. It's selfish. The community is more important, knowing than all of that thought with the Enlightenment. Began in the 1790s, peaked really 1820s, but you get it later with the 1850s, sort of bleeds into that Victorian era as well, and we kind of combine that in literature a lot of times. It was mostly in Britain and in Germany, where you had a little bit crossing the pond over to America. And it was a reaction against all the stuff that was in the Enlightenment. You had the idea of the romantic hero, and greatest example was old Lord Byron. He was a greatly wonderful romantic hero. First art study we will look at is Wandering Above the Sea of Fog by Friedrich, 1818. And we use this to look at the engaged and enraged artist. The artist is apart from society, and you can tell here in this picture. He is by himself. He's isolated on his little rock. He is engaged with nature and possibly enraged at society and the ills of society. So he is going to be amongst his natural setting here. The artist is also a social critic, a revolutionary. It was his job to change things, to make things better. And, of course, he is a genius. We're going to watch a small video on YouTube. And we're going to be thinking while you're watching this, where is the speaker? Why do they choose the location? What are some of the political issues he talks about? And what is one characteristic of Romanticism you caught? Go ahead and write those down. We'll start this video.
Hello, my name's Simon Kaveshi and I'm module leader of the Romantic Core, which is a second year course in English at Oxford Brookes. Imagine a period when everything seemed up for debate, when the status of the king, the status of Parliament, the status of the worst Tory government that Britain had ever had, all seemed properly things that we should be arguing about and debating. Some people wanted life to change forever, radically, as had happened in France in the French Revolution at the end of the 18th century. Some people wanted women to get the vote, for working class people to get the vote, All these sorts of things feed into the literature of the period, the poetry, the prose, the drama. And what we see performed in those texts is a sense of debate about the self, a naked, expressive sense of turmoil and self-doubt. Because, of course, whenever you've got political strife, you worry about yourself. We hope you can join us at Oxford Brookes to study the Romantic period.
Okay, so let's look back at our questions. Where's the speaker during the video? He is in a outdoor setting in a garden at his university. So I think that is very telling in that that you have this, when talking about the Romantics who so loved nature, to be in a garden setting. What are some of the political issues he talks about? Conflict, world conflicts with revolutions going on, women getting the vote, that class society, fighting against the classes. What is lower class? What is upper class? What is the self? And those are characteristics of Romanticism. He talked about the self. What does that it mean to be human? What does it mean to be one as part of this world, part of this nature? Okay. And here we have the dreamer. That's our second aspect of Romanticism. Another Friedrich painting, 1835. And we have the individual is rugged. He must put up with nature. He has unique, endless potential as an artist, and that self-realization comes through art. That you must go out and experience and be a philosopher to be able to have that self-realization, and that this is where transcendentalism comes into play, where you have self-awareness, self-perfection, self-realization with that. William Blake's poetry, which we will do in another slide, is a good indication of those kind of theories. And that was the bell ringing we did in class. Here we have Shipwreck with Joseph Turner, 1805, and I think this is a really excellent way of looking at glorification of nature, which is that nature is peaceful, it's restorative, it's an escape from industrialized society where humans are dehumanized, that we've gone away from what it means to be human, and you've just got machines and terrible things. Naturalism comes in later. It really heightens, really comes in. It comes as a reaction to Romanticism, but also I think as a natural sort of flow to it. When you need to separate naturalism out from Romanticism, so make sure when your notes you definitely take these into consideration. Naturalism really comes in where it's an awesome, powerful, horrifying nature, and that it's indifferent to us. We are on just little tiny things, and nature doesn't care about us. Romanticism, they're all outside looking around in the trees and everything's beautiful. Naturalism is not that way. Nature's indifferent. It's powerful. It's overwhelmingly powerful. Here we are. We have Avalanche in the Alps. We have Sunset after a storm on the coast of Sicily. The Deluge. Tree of Crows. A Wreck of the Hope. The Raft of Medusa. Eruption of Vesuvius. And here we have our next aspect, which is which we'll look at with Eldina Ruin, and that is romanticizing the Middle Ages and revival of past styles. You have a Gothic and Romanesque revival. Gothicism is really in Gothic style, came in the end of the Middle Ages, so romanticizing that, making it neo-Gothic, new Gothic architectural styles, especially medieval ruins. Here you have the Salisbury Cathedral from the Meadows, Constable's painting. Hadley Castle. Winter landscape with the church in the background. You have the British House of Parliament, which is the first photograph we're looking at. This is a scene of modern England, London. But here we have, this is when the Parliament House was built with Big Ben and all that. You can tell with the architecture here, very Gothic. Another painting by Constable, Salisbury Cathedral. And so far we've looked at all these. Let's look at Frankenstein. Look at down here. In Frankenstein, Walton writes that the third letters of danger in sheets of ice, and the fourth in being trapped in the ice, surrounded by the fog and vast regular shapes. What element of romanticism is that? And if you look at it, you can see it's definitely three glorification of nature. Interest in exotic and foreign lands. You have the appeal of the other It's escape from reality. And possibly you might have it as a psychological or moral justification of imperialism. This is a time when England owns a lot of countries and is sucking resources from a lot of countries. So you might see that as sort of a justification of that. And we have the Fanatics of Tangiers, Massacre of Choice, Women of Algiers. You can tell definitely that these are, this is the time when women can be presented with their ankles showing and their, tops uncovered, and it's only because they are in a kind of exotic dress and not Victorian or what you would think of as proper English dress. There's another modern photograph from the Royal Pavilion at Brighton. This was written in this time, or built in this time. And you have your onion domes. You have all the lattice work, very Eastern looking, Middle Eastern looking. Sultan in Morocco and his entourage, charge of the Mamelukes. And here, if we look at Wuthering Heights, you see Heathcliff is seen as a gypsy. And that's definitely an element of exotic. Interesting country life. You have rural settings, farms. You have the simple life, things getting back to nature. This kind of goes with that getting things from the soil, growing plants from the earth, that sort of natural environment. Constable, again, is that for mill? The cornfield. You notice the animals here, fat little dogs and horses and sheep and everything. Then we have the supernatural, ghosts, fairies, witches, demons, madness. Really, the first time we look at psychology. We have introductions of, Jung and Freud and all these ideas of what makes insanity. Spiritual self-awareness, get rid of all your things and go out and be in nature and become more spiritually self-aware. Yearning for the known and the unknown and the unknowable. If you think about Frankenstein, for sure, looking into that, what is unknown? How far can I go? Should I go that far? Here we have another Friedrich painting. A cemetery, ghostly looking. Abbey and Oak Forest. The madness here with the psychological breakdown. William Blake, as well as a poet, did lots of writing, lots of paintings as well. Focused on a lot of supernatural type things. The Great Red Dragon and the Woman Clothed with the Sun, another William Blake. Constable Stonehenge. Notice the figure here too, contemplating nature, looking at nature. Always. An incubus. The ceiling. Manfred and the Witch of the Alps. You can see in the middle of the painting you have a ghostly witch figure there. Witch's Sabbath. Goya painting. Procession of the Flagellants. Saturn Devours the Sun, another Goya. If you look at Wuthering Heights Romanticism Practice, you have at the beginning of it, you have the little hand coming through the window and his horror that is there, and this melancholy voice going, "Let me in, let me in." This is Lockwood at the beginning when he stays with Heathcliff and the ghost of Catherine visits him. This is for the questions for Browning's My Last Duchess, and you can find these on the PowerPoint presentation as well. Our next one is nationalism, and that's a focus on national language and folklore, like with the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, and the importance of local customs and culture, as well as nationalism itself, which is just a love of one's country. If you look here, you can see Goya showing the patriots here as being martyrs. If you look at, here we have Greece on the ruins. Liberty leading the people, the French Revolution, revolutionary ideas. You have fights, battles, glorious, victorious battles. Soldiers on their horses, Napoleon on his horse, looking very regal and romantic looking. The next one we have is a return to Christian mysteries, and you can see here in the 7th Plagues of Egypt, you have Moses